Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please smash the subscribe button. If you keep coming back and you're not yet subscribed, just do so because it will really help me out. It also keeps me going and lets me know how many people are really watching and if you really quite like the content. Now, in the last video, we did do the front mudguard, and the front mudguard is looking absolutely brilliant. Now, my friend Mark did mention that I hadn't actually shown a before and after, so right here I'm going to show you the before, and over here we'll show you the after. Now what I'll try to do as well is I'll try to put it just over here and I'll let that fade out just so you can actually see it, like the difference that is actually there. So obviously to make it a bit more Instagram worthy and make it look a bit more like a dirt bike, we've raised the front mudguard, which has raised the headlight, but we do need to raise the bars, and by raising the bars that's going to give the illusion of height and extended forks yet again. Furthermore, when it actually raises here, it's going to make the back look like it's lower, so it's going to give that perch stance that we're looking for, especially for Instagram. Now the first thing we have to do is get rid of my old bar risers because they're just not tall enough. So taking off the handlebars is going to be a pretty easy job, in all honesty. Probably one of the easiest things that you can do. Handlebar risers aren't hard in any way, shape nor form. So it's not going to be too much of a how-to, but it's going to be just showing you what the difference in the stance will be. So with bar risers, the way they actually fit on is pretty much really simple. You've got your original bolt hole that goes there, and you've got another bolt hole here that's the original, and then it's offset so that you can basically put it into there and still clamp. So it clamps the extension, which is this part here, as you can see, and usually they sit in with a nice little recess just for your 22mm bars. You can get these kits so you can raise the 22mm, they just come with an extra couple of shims for the top and the bottom, but I'm running here the 28mm taper bar. So here I have the new bar risers, they're only about 11 quid off of eBay, so nice, cheap and cheerful. But the main thing that we're actually looking at here is just this distance here, so between my thumb and my index finger. The reason being is there I've got about 35mm roughly, give or take, of extra height. So let's take the top off just so I can actually show you just a little bit more exactly what I mean. Now it might not seem like a lot, but there's about a 10mm difference between the two of them. So from the bottom bits here and the recess that go in where your bars are, just that little 10mm is going to make quite a fair bit of difference, especially visually. And then don't forget, it's roughly about an inch gone up, which is not bad considering the front mudguard's gone up an inch, the headlight's gone up an inch, so now we're raising up about an inch on the bars. So for here you've got the two larger holes which are recessed as well, just to actually compensate for the bar. You get the longer bolts, slide that through as well, and basically you just place it onto the bike. Now I'm going to put it over this way like that, so it's coming outwards towards the end of the bars. The reason for that is that basically I find it gives a better grip and less vibration and feedback, especially because then it's also less likely to bend your bars if you drop it, because it's got a shorter distance in order to actually take impact. If it's further in, then you've got a longer leverage for it to be bent. Now this bit is always tricky because you're fighting your handlebars that are still attached to everything else. So with those in place I can now actually start putting the handlebars into it. So as you can see I can put the handlebars in there now, which is pretty cool. I'll set these to what I like as a personal preference. Some people say keep it in line and fluid with the forks, but me personally I quite like it just slightly forwards. Everyone's got their own personal preference. I mean, for me, I just like it slightly forwards because it does raise the actual handlebars up just that little touch as well. But for now, we just need to put these on, which will go on like that. As you can see, they're pretty pretty. I quite like them. I'll probably end up hiding them, but I do quite like them. Right, so as you can see, there's markings on it, on either side of it. So that, to me, can tell me if I'm straight in there or not. So for instance, with here, you'll be able to see if your bars are running in conjunction to the forks. But like I said, me personally, I quite like having them so they're just kinked forwards. I personally find for me that just is a little bit more comfortable. I'm not doing 40-foot jumps on it, I'm not asking too much of the bars myself. But also for the stance of the Instagram build, you kind of wanting to add any bit more height that you can. Obviously you don't go crazy, but that's what we're trying to achieve. Now you're trying to achieve maybe a slight little gap in here. And the reason being, kind of want it to be even on both sides, just so that it's got a good firm grip. Right, so as you can see now, my handlebars are actually a bit higher. Now in comparison to what it was before, obviously everything from the petrol tank to the bars is now raised. So if you've seen by my video before, you know that the bike has been basically prepped and purpose built for green laning. So by raising the bars, I've now got more room between my leg and the bar for when I'm taking tighter corners. So that, for me, is an extra added win because I've got a little bit more room to play around, especially if I hit something with my foot. With the bars, obviously I've tilted them forwards. Now, if you were to do this, you're gonna wanna feel your levers, and basically you might have to readjust everything that you've already got. Now the reason for that is, obviously you just changed the pitch and the height of all your bits, so there's a few things you need to check. First off, your clutch. Pull it in, move it left and right. Have a look down here as well to see if there's any binding, if it's stiff, if it's getting caught, all of that kind of stuff. And this is essential that you do it. Also, your brake line. Because you've raised the bars, obviously you're now having extra height added on all your cables that are here. So just double check that every single cable that you've got is still free and not getting caught. So here I've got my front brake, that's all working fine. My front brake line's in the right place, that's not getting snagged. Accelerator, that's not getting snagged. So yeah, all my buttons. But then obviously if you're moving things, you're gonna need to make sure they're tight. So go over every single bolt and everything just to make sure it's nice and tight. Right, so obviously here what I've done is I've moved my start button again, just so that it's somewhere nice. I had to move the accelerator cable just up a little bit so I could move my front brake reservoir up a little bit. Then over on this side as well, just moved my indicators, horn and full beam. Also I've raised my hand guards, so it's a bit more in keeping with the bike. But as you can already see, it's definitely looking more stanced, which is exactly what we're wanting. As you can see, it's a bit higher. It's all going to feel a bit different, but that's not a bad thing. And a lot more manoeuvrable now. Double check everything is working on the bike. So naturally your bar is going to feel a bit different, and the reason for that is you've changed the ergonomics. So you might want to go out, have a little test ride, just see if everything's actually fitting right, and just have fun. As you can see here, it now has that height on the petrol cap. The back end probably could do with a little bit of a lower, but we'll get to that at another stage. But overall, I'm quite pleased. It's starting to look pretty good. So obviously now the handlebars are a little bit higher and it looks the nuts. I'm actually really happy. The whole front end is really stanced, the back end's starting to look stanced as well. So it's really on point and I'm really pleased with it. Like to say, obviously I don't have a torque wrench, but if you can or you do have one, then I'd advise using torque wrench settings for it. Please double check that all your control units, your brakes, your everything is nice and tight and where it should be and where you're happy for it and where it feels comfortable. Obviously make sure it's all tight, make sure your handlebars are going to stay on because I don't want that falling off on you. The bike's looking really good and I'm really pleased with the stance of it as well. So I just have to say that obviously all my videos coming out on Wednesday, especially for the build. The next one's going to be the headlight, so stay tuned in for that one. If you haven't already, smash the subscribe button, it will really help me out just so that I know what's actually working, what isn't, and it also gives me the encouragement to keep going. So yeah, smash the like button if you can as well, and until next time, ride it out.